In 2014, I was a school teacher in grad school, and I decided to help some kids out by teaching cheerleading lessons in their front yard. I saved up $250, enough to buy a 5x7 mat, which I was super proud of. And that's what I taught lessons on in my garage with a borrowed open flame propane heater from my dad. And I just got completely booked and kept having lessons in the evenings and realizing that there was a need in our community for something a little bit different.
I knew nothing about cheer, and my mom got on her phone and started asking around, and they said that there was a Bryant cheer coach coaching kids out of her garage.
So I get this phone call from Elizabeth, and I don't know her at the time, and she tells me she has a daughter who has decided randomly that she wants to become a cheerleader, and so we need to get her some lessons to learn how to do those flips or something.
I knew nothing at all about cheer. Kaylee had no idea what she was doing. She just knew that she wanted to be a cheerleader.
And we were in her garage, and when she asked me what a toe touch was, I literally bent down to touch my toes. I only gave her a month to help me go into 7th grade cheer, and it was not long enough.
And so she shows up at my house with her camping chairs, because we didn't have any chairs in the garage. It was literally, the little mat with the dangerous heater next to it. And in walks Kaylee and Elizabeth. And Kaylee is a rock star athlete, genetically gifted, hard work, the whole package. And I knew from the very first lesson, I didn't mean to tear up on that part. I knew from the very beginning she had it in her.
Brooke was very patient with her. And Brooke also seen something in Kaylee that I couldn't see because I had no idea what any of this stuff was that she was doing.
And I didn't know my cheer. I did not know my dance. I still was really confused on motions.
Did you make the team?
I did make the team.
The pivot or the turning point from being a school teacher and becoming a full-time coach was a calling from God. There is no other way to explain it. God planted a seed in my heart with those children that started growing, and it was never just me. I found the most incredibly talented coaches and other humans that love kids too and wanted to give back and invest that into those children. And so I agreed to teach classes one night a week at a rented back room in a building in Benton. And before we ever opened, we had classes 5 nights a week, and 103 kids signed up.
And from there, Brooke decided that she wanted to actually open up a gym. And every single night, she had to load up all of the mats and everything that she had in that room and put it in the back of a U-Haul. So me and my husband and Kaylee came every single night that she was there. We loaded up everything in the back of this U-Haul, rain, sleet, snow, it didn't matter what the weather was. We had to load it all up, and we just helped her because, I don't know, there was just something about her that drew us all to.
I originally agreed to rent this back room for 8 weeks, and after a couple of weeks in, quickly saw that it was too much for the facility, traffic, parking, bathrooms, all of those things. And so it left me with about 6 weeks to find somewhere or to be done with it.
So before I ever met Brooke or even knew about Empire, I'd already had about 11 years of experience coaching, tumbling primarily, and doing team coaching.
Brooke and I go back a long way. I used to coach her when she was a little girl.
My first cheer coach, Pam Jones, and she coached a little peewee football league cheer team called the Bryant Oilers. And back in the early 90s, that was what every little girl wanted to do from Bryant, was to be a Bryant Oiler.
So walking into undeveloped in my mind entity was a little scary. I didn't really know what I was gonna walk into because I'd been with programs that had been around for 20, 30 years.
I've been coaching for a long time, and I knew my years were getting less and less of being able to do what I love. So I went to Brooke and asked her if I could finish my career doing what I loved, which was coaching cheerleading.
We didn't have a front desk person. It was me on the mat with some really cool high school kids at the time, and then slowly started adding more adult staff in the coming months.
So you had to be the best coach you could be in that moment, or it just wasn't going to happen. In between moving equipment and trying to get kids signed up at this other location, it was kind of a hot mess, I'm not going to lie. I mean, it was, but for some reason, they just kept coming in droves.
People would walk in and they're at the door and they can't even make it in the door because the lines to pick up their kids. And I never thought about, oh, well, this is hard. It was worth it. The kids were coming. They needed something that, gave them a sense of purpose and accomplishment that made all the long hours worth it. I was coaching on the mat one night in November. We had opened in March in the rented back room, so we're 6 months or so later. And a man walks in the door and he tells me his name. He shakes my hand and says, "I have a building you need to buy." And I had never even thought about us going and buying a building, but I did know that we were out of space. And so making that first leap into, okay, we are permanently going to buy something that's going to be ours. And it felt like our forever home. We had a almost 7,000 square foot building, 2 bathrooms, had our 40% of the parking lot. It was fabulous. And in 3 months, we doubled in size.
I knew when I met Brooke that there was just something different. Brooke has a firecracker, for sure.
That day, turning in my resignation letter at the school district, I was terrified. And I thought, okay, surely somebody will hire me if this doesn't work out, because it is very scary to go from a, steady income to putting it all on the line for what you hope is going to be greatness.
She just always believed, and it always has worked out. Like when I've had a few people that's like, there's no way this is going to be done. And I'm like, actually, it will be, because there's just something about her that when she sets her mind toward it, like we just get it done.
When she says she's going to do something, she does it.
At the end of 2016, we closed on the 18,000 square foot building, which was the jump from our 7,000 square foot palace that we thought would be everything we ever needed. And then it took us 4 months to remodel and get all the things ready. And right after spring break, we opened in our new facility.
Brooke became family. Empire is much more than a business. It actually is a family. I can't imagine ever spending my life with anyone else. We've all been through life changes together, and we've done it as a group. So I'm at Empire because Empire is more than my job. It really is my family.
Empire is about children, and not just their children as far as teaching them a skill, but when we encompass a child, when we bring a child into our family, we want them to leave there being able to conquer the world.
That kind of community and relationships is not something that could have been planned, and it's not something that I could have ever anticipated, but has definitely been one of our greatest blessings.
Somewhere along the line, I planted a small seed in Brooke Plack, and that seed took off and grew into Empire.
Before we started teaching classes, when I was still teaching lessons out of my garage, I did a few clinics on the weekend. And I was on the phone with my dad, and I told my dad, I said, I think I've got something here. I think something's happening, but I need a name for it because I need to build a website and get an email address and, a business card.
When I asked her why she chose the word Empire, she said that her father and her were talking about it, and she said, why don't you just do Brooke's Gymnastics? And she said, Dad, I don't want to build a small building. I want to build an empire.
And so that is where the name Empire came from. And we were Empire Cheerleading because that was our anchor program. That was what we offered. We taught tumbling and preschool tumbling that in a way all funneled into what at that time was the cheerleading program. At the turn of 2022, we became Empire Kids, which embodied the bigger brand and the bigger perspective of what we were offering for our families. I have a heart for children, and I saw a need, and the need has always been for me more than just the skill and the sport. It's always been more about the content of their character and the things that they were learning along the way. Think back to a brother and sister that have become a huge part of our program. The sisters started cheering on our very first team, the Cheerios, And she was, I think, in the first grade and has been with us ever since and grown into a tremendous athlete. And somewhere along the way, her brother started coming to the gym. And then we would notice him off to the side talking to kids. And then, in between classes or at open gym, he would be out there flipping and tumbling. And he just kept coming and he kept coming. And all of a sudden we were like, I guess he would make a great staff member, and hired him.
When I graduated high school, I knew that I was putting my own cheer days behind me because I just went through a shoulder surgery, but I was not ready to give it up. And I thanked Brooke for everything that she did for me, and she told me that she had a position for me.
It was like she was always there training any extra time she could, and she knew so much. She started helping other kids long before she ever was, officially a coach per se.
We had athletes in the beginning that are now old enough and are young adults to where they're choosing what school they want to go to so they can continue to work with us. If that doesn't say that I trust them or that I love them, then I don't really know what does.
The legacy I want to leave, that I always want Empire to be known for, is doing what's best for kids. Not what's best for parents, not what's best for, a coach or what's convenient at the time, but what was the best decision for these children.
The thing that any coach can teach you, like mentoring, is, that's life-changing.
And that is what is going to take them throughout their life. Not the cartwheel, not the warp wall, but what skills did they learn that we intentionally chose to instill over time that was the best thing for them in their development. Although we've come a long ways from that little red mat in my garage, the beauty of serving children is, as some graduate, other ones walk through our doors, and you never know what mom or dad or grandparent you're gonna meet, their story, where they're from, how they arrived in our community, and especially at our facility. And I literally cannot wait each day to see who God's gonna bring through our doors next.